On today's episode of the Engaging Marketeer, I want to talk about domain names, but not one of those boring podcasts about domain names and the types of domains you can use and the different sort of top-level domain extensions and all that nonsense. No, I want to talk about a terrible mistake you can make with your domain names, one that I have made myself, so I'm not casting aspersions onto other people because I have done this myself, and it can be extremely costly. And that mistake is, if you think you're never going to need a domain name again, if you think, I'm not going to use this website again, I don't need it, I'm going to let it expire. You have to be 100% certain that you are never going to use that domain again. Because if you let it expire, it's gone. And it is extremely unlikely you are ever going to get it back. So what do I mean by this? Let me throw myself under the bus first of all and explain what happened with me when we did this. We had a domain name related to Engage Web because we bought up a lot of domains that were related to the name Engage Web to protect the brand so other people couldn't do it. And one of those domain names was engagewebdesign.co.uk. Engage Web Design. We thought that somebody might take that, so we'll get that, and maybe we'll do something with a landing page with it. Maybe we won't. We're not sure. And in the end, we didn't do anything with it. And we had lots of these domain names with Engage Web in the name, and we thought, we don't need them all. Each one's costing, 15, 10 quid a year, whatever it was. And let's let a few of them go because we're paying for these. And we let a few of them go, and it was probably about a year or so later that somebody had set up a business called Engage Web Design. Obviously, our company's called Engage Web. That's not cool. They were in the UK. That's really not cool. Engagewebdesign.co.uk. What really wasn't cool is we knew them, and we'd taken a client off them a few years earlier, so they knew us as well. So they set up engagewebdesign.co.uk and thought everything was high and dandy. We'd luckily protected the trademark for Engage Web, so other people cannot use it in relation to web design and digital marketing within the UK. So we had to protect that trademark legally, going through our IP lawyer, which ended up costing us well over £1,000 to do. And there were some arguments from the other side that I've never heard of Engage Web Design. Yes, you have. You know who we are. Engage Web Design is the kind of thing you would say in a conversation. No, it really isn't. It's our brand. Bugger off. And they eventually relinquished the domain name so that we could get it back again. So a domain that we didn't renew for the sake of about 10 quid ended up costing us about £1,000. That's a mistake that I've made. Never, ever do that. But most businesses, most people wouldn't be able to get that domain name back. We were only able to do that because we trademarked Engage Web. If we hadn't, almost impossible for us to get that back. Now, I have seen this over and over and over again throughout the years. And the reason it happens is if you have a domain name with a website on the internet, on the old interweb, and it's online for any period of time, say a year, 2 years, 3 years, maybe even 10 years, it's got real value. It's got real value. It might not be earning any money. It might not get a lot of traffic. It might not generate any leads for you, but it has value as an existing website, as a historic domain, because anyone can take that website, that domain, put whatever they want on it, and Google knows it's been around for a long time. It's got history. It's got more than likely other websites linking to it. It's got pages linking to it, which increases its value, increases its ranking, and means that if they take your domain and they put something on it linking to one of their sites that they want to rank higher, it's going to help improve it. So it has a value for that. So it's definitely worth them renewing and putting a holding page up, putting a link up. They could even take your domain and put something on it really unethical. I've seen this before where somebody's domain was taken because they didn't renew it, and it ended up with a Russian import site selling knockoff trainers in the UK. Not cool, but that's because they didn't renew their domain name. I've seen others that have had porn put on them. And why not? Why wouldn't you? You could have anything done on it because once you don't renew it, once you let it go, that's it. It's gone. It's absolutely gone. There was a famous story, and we've told this in workshops before, where Heinz, Heinz make the soup, make the beans, make different Heinz products, 57 varieties and all that. They ran a competition on one of their packages. I think it was on ketchup, where it had a QR code linking to a website where you could enter a competition. They didn't renew that domain name. They let that domain name go because they didn't need it anymore. Why would they keep it? And somebody put some porn on it, which meant there were loads of QR codes in the shops that customers could scan, which went to a porn site. If you just renew the bloody domain name, it costs you pennies in the grand scheme of things. The PR disaster of it going wrong is absolutely disastrous. I've seen this years ago when I worked in Cardiff. There was a company that was a client of ours. There was 2 directors in the business, and one of them disappeared. They had an acrimonious breakup to their business relationship. One of them disappeared, and he was the one that had access to all of the domains. And the other one couldn't get hold of him, couldn't get the domain renewed, and the domain lapsed, and then ended up getting registered by someone else. He had to start from scratch with the website because he couldn't get it. But you don't just lose the website. You see, what sparked me doing this podcast now and why it's so important is because if you've got a domain name that you've been using and you no longer use anymore, do you use the email for it? Because if you use the email for it under any email address and somebody registers that domain name, they've got access to all of your email. All of it. All they have to do is set up a catch-all email address at it, which is the first thing they will do. All the email that goes to you, whatever email you've been using, will pop into that inbox for them so they can see what email you've been getting and what email you get going forward. And if, heaven forbid, you use that email address to log into a social media platform, well, they've got you. They've got your social media access. They can log into your Facebook, to your LinkedIn, whatever you're using, and reset the password, and you can't stop them. All because you didn't renew a domain name. And one of our clients had this happen to them last week. Didn't renew a domain name because it was an old domain. The website had changed for whatever reason, different business name. The old domain they let go. They were using the email for social media. They lost access to their social media account, all because they didn't renew the domain name. Absolute disaster. Perhaps the most high-profile example of this going wrong, and I'm not sure if I'm supposed to mention this or not, but I'm going to anyway, was with the company I used to work for that you've probably heard of called Game. Game, who used to be electronics boutique, game stores in the UK, sell video games, have done for a very long time. Back in the early 2000s, when I designed the website for Game, their website wasn't game.co.uk. It was game.uk.com because they couldn't get the game.co.uk. Somebody else had registered it. And Game at the time bought a online PC gamers platform. They run game servers so that you could play video games online. Well, actually, it wasn't. It's computer games to get the vernacular correct, because they were PC. They were computer games. Video games are consoles. Played computer games online. Things like Command and Conquer. Yeah, Medal of Honor, that sort of thing. Called Barry's World. And Barry's World had lots of different servers with lots of different domain names controlling those servers, and one of them somebody forgot to renew. Somebody just didn't renew the domain name because they thought, oh, well, we'll do that next week. You know, when we process a finance run, we'll pay for it then. No, you pay for it before it's due. You don't leave it. And one of the game servers went down. Luckily, they were able to renew that domain because nobody sniped it. They were lucky. They got away with one there, but the servers went down for a couple of days where they weren't able to play because the domain wasn't renewed. But equally, the game.co.uk domain name was owned by somebody else at the time. And Game was a registered business, but they couldn't trademark the word game because it was too generic. You can't trademark something that generic, which meant they couldn't legally go in and take that domain game.co.uk off them. If they'd been electronics boutique, they could have done that because that's something you can trademark. Game, they couldn't. So this guy was able to keep using game.co.uk so long as he didn't infringe on any business copywriting by selling video games, which for a while he didn't do, and then eventually he did start doing that, and Game was able to take the domain name off him legally without paying him any money. There's a lot of shenanigans goes on with domains. A lot of shenanigans. But the key takeaway from all of this is, and please make sure this is the one that sticks, the one that you don't forget. If there is any likelihood, any possibility whatsoever at all that you're going to want to use a domain name again, that you use email with it, that you have any potential use for it in the future, even the most minuscule 0.1%, keep the domain. Do not let it go. Do not let it expire, because as soon as that domain name is expired, you are extremely unlikely to ever get it back. Somebody will register it and they will do whatever the hell they want with it, and you will not be able to stop them. And if you've got email with that domain name, you are absolutely screwed, and they will take all of the email going forward from that point on that you won't be able to get. So please, do not let domains go if you think you're ever going to use them. I've been Darren. This has been the Engaging Marketeer. If you found this useful, leave me a review, leave me a rating, give me your domain names. I'll take all domain names. That's absolutely fine. And I will catch you on the next podcast.